Okay, well, welcome everyone to our Step Up Instructor Training. As I said, we're going to record today's session, so please feel free if you want to stay off camera. You do what you got to do. But just wanted to give everyone that heads up. We are joined by our Step Up and Care to Stop Violence team, so I am really going to just hand it right over to them, and they will take the lead on helping y'all figure out how to facilitate the Step Up curriculum that they've made.
Yep. So hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So like Tori said, we're here just to talk a little bit about the Step Up program that you will be, kind of facilitating through video in your UNIV 100 program. So my name is Rajan Parikh. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the coordinator for prevention education over here in our Care Stop Violence unit. So I'll talk a little bit more about what our unit is and the services that we have. But we are the confidential resource on campus that deals with instances of power-based violence. When I say power-based violence, I'm talking about types of harm that include sexual violence, relationship violence, anything that kind of falls under the umbrella. Along with providing our clinical and direct services, we also do outreach and prevention education on campus as well, whereas where Step Up kind of comes in. How do we, encourage and teach our students and our campus community the skills so that we can prevent these types of harm from occurring, and that they can be effective bystanders as well. So for those of you who have taught UNIV 100 previous, you're probably very familiar with the Step Up program. It's gone through a couple of renditions in the past few years. So we'll just be talking a little bit about what our goals are this year and how the program looks. Um, for those of you who are not familiar and or it's the first time you're hearing about the Step Up program, so Step Up is the bystander intervention program or workshop that we use here at the University of Maryland. The university has a goal of providing bystander intervention training to all first-year students, and UNIV 100 is a great medium of which we hope to accomplish that. And there's two big learning outcomes that we are hoping for the students. One is for them to define power-based violence, so understand why these types of harm occur, exist, where it's coming from, the power dynamics that are behind it, and then also for them to apply bystander intervention techniques to things that they may encounter while they're here at the University of Maryland. It is a video format like we have done for the past couple of years. So you'll be showing the video to your students, but along through that, you will be engaging them through conversation as well at directed points during the video. So first off, how do you prepare for your Step Up class? So depending on what week you choose to designate as your Step Up workshop, before that week, you want to be reviewing the Step Up guide for instructors. So Tori has sent this out to all of you. The guide is really helpful. It'll give you an overview of what the workshop is, points that you can be expecting to be made in the workshop. I'll go over the general format of the workshop as well today. But it also gives you kind of helpful kind of tips in around, topic areas, journal entries, prompts that you can use, common questions that may come up. So all of that, you may want to take a time to review the guide. And also, I put an email earlier that will come back up on the screen. Feel free to use this time in preparation to email us with any questions you may have while preparing for that course. You want to definitely prepare your students for the workshop. So like I said, the Step Up video is geared towards bystander intervention, but it talks very specifically about sexual assault and domestic violence in it, which we know is a triggering topic for many people out there. So you definitely want to let your students know the name Step Up may not indicate to them exactly what they're going to be coming and walking into in this space. So either that's making a formal announcement at the class prior or sending an ELMS message or email to your course so that they are aware of what the Step Up workshop is and what topics are going to be discussed. I see that there's something in the chat, so I'm gonna try to monitor that as well.
Just me, don't worry about it. Just sending people resources.
Okay, perfect, great. I will have space for questions as well, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can hold them till I open that space up. I highly encourage that you view the video as well and get a feel for it. The video is roughly about 25 minutes long. It will take more of the class time because you will be pausing and asking questions throughout the video, but just having an idea of what the topics are and what you can be expecting your students to come up with. And if you have any type of special accommodations you need to make for your class in particular, you can let us know if the video is up to your standard or if there's something else that you need the StepUP team to assist you with, or another department on campus to assist you with as well. And lastly, another tangible thing that you will need is to print out the scenarios. We do scenario work in the workshop itself. By printing out the scenarios, it's going to help you facilitate that activity a lot smoother than just keeping up on the screen. If you have another method, but something to allow the students to have the scenarios in front of them while they're going through the scenario activity. So while the workshop is happening, what can we do? So during the workshop, be present. So it's a video that is going to require an instructor to be there to guide the conversation. So please make sure that you're there for the session, or if you have a teaching assistant, a TA, that they have this information as well, and that someone is there to help guide that conversation. Please take notes of how your students are engaging with the video. This is twofold. One is to help you as an instructor navigate any further conversations you may have about bystander intervention, but also to see any students who maybe need services or reacting in a different way. Later on in this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about ways trauma can appear in the classroom. So it gives you some helpful tips and behaviors to kind of observe that you can reach out proactively to a student who may need resources such as care. Very important is please have students fill out the attendance code via the QR code. So the video will instruct you to pause that screen and allow students to take the QR code. That is going to be the primary way that we're tracking about the completion rate for this workshop, and also letting us know what students have completed it. It's going to list the class number, section, and instructor name. That will also inform us on the back end that you have completed your session of StepUP. We'll send out intermittent emails, and I'll let Tori know as well about if you haven't completed it, or if there's something missing. We will check that on the back end, but that's very important for us in terms of completion rate, attendance tracking, and letting the university know exactly how many students have completed the training and what percentage of incoming students are we hitting. Pause the video when directed, pass out scenarios to students during the scenario portion, and then very much so, please fill out the evaluation form at the end. There'll be an evaluation form for the students to fill out, and also an instructor evaluation form. Both are extremely helpful to us. We've been doing StepUP for a few years now through UNIV 100, and every year we get new feedback on how to improve the program so that our students are receiving it well and that we're providing information that's actually helpful to them. And an overview of how the workshop's going to go. So like I said, I encourage you to watch the video prior to showing it to your students, but what you can expect. So the workshop basically starts by defining power-based violence and rape culture. So like I said, it's very important that we give the students a primer. So you're letting them know that these are the topics that are going to be discussed. We do have words on the screen, things that can be triggering for individuals. So we want to make sure that before they come into the space that they have either mentally prepared to have that dialogue, rather than, coming and seeing on the screen and thus maybe having either not prepared for that conversation or having another kind of reaction to it. I'll talk a little bit about why we're having this conversation. So there'll be some statistics about sexual assault and its relevance to college, the bystander intervention definition, and the StepUP model. So our StepUP model as it is currently is the 3Ds model: direct, delegate, and distract. So go through all of those examples of situations where those could be used in, talking a little bit about what's appropriate, comfortability, making sure that we're emphasizing that people are staying safe during interventions. We're not trying to intervene if it puts someone's personal safety or group safety at risk. Barriers to intervention. So as what we discuss, basically reasons why people don't intervene, why it's hard to be an active bystander. We talk about, psychological challenges, societal challenges, group culture, all those things, in the hopes that people are more aware of those concepts and can overcome them in the moments that they need to intervene. They'll get an opportunity to do some scenario work, and this is a time where they can engage with their other peers as well and have this discussion. We talked to them a little bit about the talk method. So the talk method is an acronym that the RAIN organization has created in order to talk about ways that people can respond to disclosures. So our ultimate goal of Step Up is to prevent incidents before they occur, but we also recognize that these students may receive disclosures during their time in college and even after. So what do they do if they are having a disclosure to them? And then the evaluation as well at the end. So post-workshop, incorporating lessons from the workshop into class, dialogues, self-reflection through journal prompts. Like I said, the guide will give you some journal prompts that you can do. But bystander intervention, even though the Step Up program talks about it very specifically in terms of power-based violence, is a transitionable skill that these students can use in a lot of different scenarios that they may encounter. So it's really important that you keep these dialogues kind of continuing in the classroom. The more that we are able to talk about being an active bystander, ways that we can intervene, interventions that these students are currently doing or have done, the more it's going to reinforce that behavior, right? So we know there's high risk periods during the first semester, especially for first year students. So, going into homecoming weekend, the first football tailgate that they may be attending, all those experiences that they're absorbing, kind of incorporating bystander intervention into those conversations as well. How can we be active bystanders this weekend? How can we be active bystanders while we're navigating the campus, learning about the campus, learning about this new kind of environment that we're in? What ways have we been active bystanders? What were some challenges about that? So reinforcing those in the time that you have with them is going to be really important in terms of reinforcing that behavior. The more often people get comfortable being active bystanders in different situations, whether that's checking in on a friend who's going through a tough time, whether that be they're stressed out from exams or some other challenge that they're going on, to intervening in alcohol and other drug scenarios, right? All those micro behaviors that they may doing, those small interventions that they do on a daily basis, recognizing those as interventions is going to lead them to prepare for maybe that high risk situation that they're going to intervene in around power-based violence or some other topic area. And before I move on to this part, I just want to kind of give a space. Does anyone have any questions on the general Step Up workshop or the flow of it or anything around the logistics, preparing? All right, well, we'll keep moving. So one of the most common questions that we get from instructors is, what do I do if this is something that the student has already experienced or has some connection to it prior to they even talking about bystander intervention, right? And we know that that's going to be a percentage of the students in the spaces that you are teaching in. So our clinical side uses this kind of image to kind of show the different trauma responses. Some of these you guys are probably familiar with. We have fight, flight. There's also freeze that's coming a little bit more aware of, and then we have fawn, right? All of these are things that can come up during the Step Up workshop as well, but it can also be there after or even in different ways in the classroom. So different things they can show if a student is maybe having a trauma response or maybe is triggered by the content of Step Up or even around this topic area is this kind of guide here on the screen that you're seeing. Biggest thing that I always encourage instructors to see is that, do you see changes in behavior that the student represented, right? So things about um, is their attendance in class suffering poorly, right? Are they having difficulty getting assignments in while prior they were very timely on stuff on having their assignments due or submitted? Are they withdrawing from activities that they loved or they enjoyed, right? Are you having fragmented communication with students? All of those can be indicators of a lot of different things, right? Students are going through a lot, but it can also be an indicator that they may be interacting with this topic area. Either way, whatever the underlying cause may be, that student probably needs someone to reach out to them. And if you're recognizing those signs, it can be helpful for you to be the first person to make that step. So also want to kind of put out there that we talk to the students about receiving disclosures, but you also may receive disclosures as instructor. So what do you do in those scenarios? Again, the talk method. But one thing really important is ground yourself, establish an empathetic presence, right? We want to make sure that receiving a disclosure from a student is also a pretty taxing process for you as well. Try to take a non-judgmental stance, right? So understanding how you're coming off in terms of body language, tone, language, questions you're asking. The student is the expert here, meaning that let them share as little as much as they want to. If it seems like there's inconsistencies in stories or parts missing out, it's probably very intentional. Maybe the student doesn't feel comfortable sharing those details yet, or is choosing not to share them with you. Ask how you can help, and then when in doubt, give back power and control. All of this is great to kind of give a good positive response to the students, but uh, one aspect that is challenging for a lot of faculty and staff is your obligations as a responsible university employee. If you're able to sense that the student may be disclosing to you, I always think it's helpful to let them know that you are an RUE, and that if they do receive a disclosure, that if you do receive a disclosure, you are going to have to report that as per university policy. And then the student can make an informed choice if they want to continue speaking to you or seek confidential resources, right? Um, that just gives a little bit more power back to them, saying so they can make that decision. Again, talking about power-based violence, it's a experience or type of harm where power is taken away from an individual. So that as much as we can give it back is very important. But also, I completely understand that there are times where you can't anticipate that you're going to receive a disclosure. So what happens if they disclose and you haven't gotten the opportunity to tell them that you're an RUE? I will let them know immediately after disclosure, right? Same thing with the talk method. The T is thank them for telling you. You can say, thank you for sharing that with me. That required a lot of trust. I want to let you know that I'm a responsible university employee, and by university policy, I do have to report this, but I want to give you a list of resources that you can go to if you're looking for that. So what are the confidential resources on campus and off campus? So for those of you maybe engaging with commuter students, off campus could be something that could be helpful for them. On campus, we have care um, and behavioral health services, which are located both at the University Health Center. We have Counseling Center, and then we have the University Chaplains. And then in the community, we have 3 victim assistance programs, one in PG County, one in Montgomery County, and one in Washington, D.C. All 3 of those community resources have a 24/7 hotline, as does care as well, that I will give to you. Um, and then non-confidential resources as well. So the difference between confidential and non-confidential, if you are not aware, is that any disclosure made to a confidential resource is able to stay with that office or that employee. So the care team, all employees of care, all employees of the counseling center, campus chaplains, and behavioral and mental health services, if we receive disclosures, we're not obligated or have to follow the same policy that responsible university employees need to. So it gives an opportunity for a student to discuss maybe reporting options, understand that, or even just tell their story if they are not looking for that to be reported out. Non-confidential resources are also a great resource, but if the student wants to pursue those route, the one that you're probably most familiar with is the Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct, or Title IX. Any RUE, Office of Student Conduct, Rest Life, UMPD, and PG County Police Department as well. So if the student knows that they want to file a report or go through an investigation process, whether that's through the criminal justice system or through the university system, they can use these resources as well. And talking a little bit about what CARE does and what we can help with. So like I said, we do have a direct service part of our office. Our direct services has 2 elements to it. We have advocacy and therapy. I'll explain the differences between those. Advocacy is basically anything that we can do in order to create a sense of safety for that student. So advocacy services can look like providing medical care, providing housing options, financial assistance if the food has food insecurity, figuring out ways to get them food security, um, directing them to legal services and reporting options. So we do have Sally, the Sexual Assault Legal Institute, come in during the semester and provide limited representation with students so that they can explore what their legal options may be. Really anything that we can help students in order with a concern that they have around their assault or something that's going on. In order to access advocacy services, students do not need to share their story with us. If they show up to care or get in contact with us, declare that they are a victim. We are a victim-centered office. They can come in completely and say something like, I'm a survivor of sexual violence. I don't want to share my story. I'm not comfortable talking about it, but I feel like I may have an STI from my perpetrator, and I really need to get tested and make sure that I'm okay. We will take that. They're not ready to share their story. We will get them the medical care that they need to make sure that at least they can get that sense of safety, that they don't have that medical concern or that STI. If they want to engage with us on a long-term basis, they can go through our therapy services. For that, they will need to share the story. That's the way that they work with one of our trauma therapists for an ongoing period of time, kind of get to the root cause of the trauma and try to reclaim that power that they may have lost through that incident. We have a 24/7 crisis line. So during fall and spring semesters, so you can definitely use the hotline that the community resources have, but you can also use our 24/7 crisis line. A trained advocate from our office who's part of the university community will be manning that. So that is something that's a great tool that they really need to speak to someone, but it's outside of business hours, or they want to talk to someone on the phone before they come in. They can definitely call that number. They can call that number for crisis intervention, but also to get in contact with an advocate to schedule an in-person appointment or virtual appointment. They can also email us to schedule an in-person or virtual appointment. We currently do not do walk-ins, and you can get more information at our website or through our social media handles, which is just at careumd. Again, if students are not engaging with us through our direct services, we have a lot of workshop and events coming up throughout the semester. So October is actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So during that month, we'll have the Clothesline Project, our Purple Light Nights in the spring. During April, we have Take Back the Night in April, which is April Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And also for you as instructors, if you feel like your students are interested and could benefit from talking about these topics a little bit more, we do have request-based workshops, right? So we have workshops around consent, relationship violence, step up as bystander intervention, but we also can do custom requests. If there's something that your students are particularly interested in, a topic area around power-based violence that they want to go further into, you can request a workshop from us. That can be done through our website, through the links. We'll reach out to you, and those are in person. So we have our peer educators or staff actually come into the space and facilitate interactive workshop with the students. So that's all that I have. I know that was a lot of information in a really quick time, but I want to open up if anyone has any questions. All right. Well, if no one has any questions, I'm going to put an email in the chat. This is our Step Up email. This email, if you have any questions regarding Step Up, or things that you may encounter while preparing for your class, please feel free to email us throughout the semester. We are happy to, exchange information over email, get on a phone call, whatever can be helpful for you, we're here to support. What advice do you have for preparing students for the Step Up workshop? So definitely first explain to them what Step Up is. It's our bystander intervention program. Let them know it's going to be focusing on topics of power-based violence. If you don't remember that term, feel free to just say sexual violence or domestic violence. I would put a disclaimer if anyone has any concerns to either get in contact with you or come up to you and chat with you. If you have students who know that they aren't prepared to have this conversation for a Step Up, we would rather have them opt out of the class. We can, chat with you about what could be a good alternative assignment for them, but we are definitely not trying to do Step Up in a harmful way. So if you feel, or if the student feels that being in that workshop or talking about these topic areas is going to be more harmful to them, definitely reach out to us, and please let them, skip that class or work with them to figure out what could be an alternative. Again, the facilitator guide has some great language, but if there's something that you want to work on that seems more specific for your class, reach out to us. We're happy to, help you craft an email or what you're going to say in the class. We can definitely work with you on that as well. But that's all that I really have, Tori. I'll drop that email in the chat, but if there's anything else, please let us know.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. And let us know too for anyone that needs help, especially like developing assignments, things like that around Step Up. We're happy to help in that way as well. We definitely have our content experts here, but we're happy to support in whatever way that we can too. So just let us know. But thank you everyone for coming. We appreciate it, and we will see you soon.